So imagine you're me. Sony is unveiling the new PS5, along with a slag of games to go with it. However, I'm so fucking jaded with modern games that I don't really care too much. Unfortunately for me, it's all anyone in my sub box really want to talk about, so I'll listen to what they gotta say. Nothing unusual, but there is one game that grabs my fancy, mainly because the general consensus seemed to be that it was hot garbage. That game, of course, was Goodbye Volcano High, a seemingly by-the-books life sim with a cast of anthropomorphic dinosaurs. At this point, I'm really curious. I watched the trailer, and it's definitely a game, sir. At some point, I started watching people's reaction videos, and well, some of them were surprisingly positive.
The music's so fucking cliche. I love this game. I'm getting this game. Chat, I'm streaming this game.
After the initial hype, I just sort of stopped caring about the game until about January of 2022. I'm doing my own thing when my friend Kiwi tells me about a dinosaur dating sim based off of the characters from Goodbye Volcano High, made by 4chan. So I can't really recall the exact exchange we had at the moment, but if I had to guess, I must have replied with a resounding "What?" So he shows me a trailer for a game simply titled Sno'Otgame. And even though it didn't really tell me squat, the art was really cute, so I checked it out. I proceeded to stream the game to my friends over the course of a week, and by the end of it all, I ended up falling in love. JK, lol. But I did end up enjoying the game way more than anticipated. Sorry if my expectations were unreasonably low for a fan game made in less than a year, based off of a game that isn't even out yet, but it is what it is. The general plot is pretty basic. You play as Anon, a faceless shut-in who transfers to Volcano High, and just wants to ride the rest of his senior year without drawing too much attention to himself. However, his plans quickly go south when he becomes acquainted with Fang, a lost soul and one that Anon quickly becomes enamored with. I'm willing to bet it was their pretty face that drew him in. Anyway, over the course of the game, he slowly but surely starts making friends with other students at the school and eventually starts dating Fang. So yeah, basic as fuck plot, but that's fine. The game makes up for it by having surprisingly likable and down-to-earth characters. Most of the time. I'm not very hard to impress when it comes to characters and stories. At least I like to think that I'm not, but as of recent, I find myself not being able to enjoy a number of games, specifically because they got annoying characters coupled with doo-doo ass stories. It's probably at its worst for me with games specifically centered around younger casts. I know this ain't a hot take or anything, and I'm not about to act high and mighty because the games I prefer are intellectually superior or some doo-doo train of thought like that. If that's the kind of shit you like, then don't worry, there's plenty to enjoy here. I surprisingly found myself genuinely enjoying seeing these characters interact with one another. We're introduced to one of my favorite characters when Anon and Fang head to a pizzeria in an attempt to find a venue for Fang's band. They end up meeting an old family friend of Fang's named Mo. Mo is one of the coolest motherfuckers in this whole game, let me tell ya. A very simple character, just a funny old man who's well-intentioned and with a fuck ton of old man wisdom. It was partly because of Mo that I finally realized why Sno'Otgame was clicking with me so much. I found myself actually relating to a lot of the characters' actions and thoughts in this game. For the sake of not sounding like a complete douchebag, I will 100% acknowledge that relatability is without a doubt one of the most subjective things to ever spout in defense of fictional characters. But here's my rebuttal. This is my video, and this game just had so many moments that just made me go, damn Lewis, this actually reminds me of the time I was in high school. Every time Mo was on screen, it just ended up reminding me of the many times my own family used to have these massive gatherings, and every cousin, aunt, uncle, etc. would just line up to embarrass the shit out of me, kinda like Mo does with Fang at many points. Coincidentally, I used to get into some pretty bad spats with my own sibling when I was younger, and even though my relatives didn't always know what to say or do, in retrospect, it was just nice to see that they'd even bother going that mile for us. I only bring it up because Mo's best scene is without a doubt the one where he helps Fang repair their relationship with their brother Nazar. We don't even get to see the exchange between the three, but the absolute confidence on this man before talking it out with Fang and Nazar is just so goddamn endearing. I can't help but love it. Speaking of Fang and Nazar, they had some pretty good scenes too. As weird as it may sound, my favorite scene with these two has to be their own individual breakdowns. Starting with Fang, we find them on the school rooftop and they waste no time going all existential on us. Talking about how they don't feel like they matter, and no matter how hard they try, they just don't think the people around them will ever care to notice. So already this scene's got me enticed because goddamn if that ain't some real shit. But they end up specifically veering about how their family ignores them because they view Fang as a lost cause and they prefer to give all of their attention to their brother Nazar instead. They start wondering why Nazar is so popular and seems to be gifted with so many talents despite being at a disadvantage since they've been crippled at youth. He's always willing to help Fang at any moment's notice, and despite all of his constant fuck-ups as well as all the shit he takes from Fang, he keeps on attempting to be a better brother on top of being a model student. Alright, so that's Fang's point of view. It's a lot to take in, but I ain't done yet. Throughout the game, Best Bro Nazar has some one-on-ones with Anon as well, where they pretty much tell their side of the story, hitting the same general beats but obviously from his own point of view. We learn that their parents really do view Fang as a lost cause, so they focus all of their attention on Nazar, but it's to a near detriment. As a result of constantly being in the spotlight, Nazar feels like they always gotta be on the offensive, being the straight A student, star of the track team, and of course, always willing to help Fang at any moment's notice. That shit quickly wears on him, but he's always gotta fight the urge to lash out about his own issues, because he's been put in this awkward position where he can't risk looking like he has any baggage of his own in front of his parents, or can't bring himself to openly disagree with anything Fang does, in fear of making their already waning relationship even worse. Which ultimately ends with him having his own breakdown later on in the game, because they so badly yearn to have that stable relationship they used to have with their sibling. Holy fuck, this shit is badass. Two sides of the same issue, approaching the situation from radically different and skewed perspectives of each other because they can't take the time to talk to each other over their deeply rooted issues that go as far as back as when they were kids. All because of an incident that caused them both a great amount of pain, but for differing reasons that the other isn't even fully aware of. Nazar broke his wing when he was little because of Fang, FYI, just in case my dumbass forgot to mention that. Sorry, I probably should have mentioned it earlier, but I suck at writing. Anyway, if it wasn't painfully obvious, Fang and Nazar got my favorite dynamic in the game, and Mo's big scene where he helps the two come together and settle their differences is just the little cherry on top. In general, this game just has so many cool scenes and moments that I'm generally able to look past the stuff I didn't enjoy and just vibe with the experience as a whole. I would love to take the time to go over more scenes that I enjoyed throughout the game, but I don't want to bloat this video, and I feel most of you watching are already pretty familiar with this game anyway. It's not just the scenes and dialogue that made this game for me. I mentioned the art earlier, and it's really good. All of the character stills are brimming with personality, honestly way more than the stiff portrayals from Volcano High. Even a lot of the original characters like Principal Spears, Mo, and the freaking hot dog lady look great. These characters resonate with a lot of people from what I've seen on the internet, and it's for good reason. They look so cute under the right art style. Moving on from the art, the freaking soundtrack to this game is feral as fuck. I really was not expecting this game's soundtrack to hit as hard as it did, but after having played this whole game, I can very easily say that this game's soundtrack is on the same level as some of my favorite game soundtracks of all fucking time. I vividly remember the wide eye-to-eye grin I got when I realized how fucking awesome this game's soundtrack was. It's honestly one of the best feelings I can ever get from playing a video game. And yes, better than the game actually being fun to play, as weird as that may sound. I ain't gonna lie though, there's one track in this game that sounds like a cursed version of Back in Black by AC/DC. It's not a bad track, in fact it's one of my favorites, but it gives off such a weird feeling when I've listened to Back in Black basically my whole life. I'm always expecting the song to play out one way, but instead it's this uncanny version that sounds kind of like it, but not quite. Okay, so throughout the video, I may or may not have made some allusions to this game having some sloppy moments. I feel it's only fair to be transparent with this kind of thing instead of pussyfooting around my issues in order to be nice to It's Trish, it's fucking Trish. I cannot stand Trish, baby. Alright, so, I don't really know how to say this without sounding mean, but Trish just feels so out of place. She was okay when the story started. She seemed to be very confrontational and for seemingly no reason, especially when Anon was involved. It usually felt like Anon was pretty rational, or at least as rational as one could make Anon act, which would make Trish feel even worse as a result. Now, I was more than willing to give her a chance, the same way I gave literally every character in this game a chance to, you know, do what characters are supposed to do and develop. She seemed to be a little harder for Anon to crack, and sometimes it seemed like she wasn't making any progress, but that's okay. I kept waiting patiently, and unfortunately, I reached the last straw at the infamous auditorium scene where Trish just sorta supervillains the shit out of everyone and projects Anon's cringy ass anime waifu edits for the whole school to gawk at. And when she gets chewed out by literally everyone, including Anon, and she's just sort of like, I did it because I didn't want Fang and Anon to fall in love. I'm just sort of like, freaking, shut the hell up, bitch. Like, you can't handle they them pussy, bro. Like, back the fuck off. Nobody cares. I know this game tries to push this message of learning to hear other people's issues because you're not the only person of importance in this world, and that's fine. It's not at all a bad message to preach, but like, fuck Trish, dog. It seems like a lot of the side characters that get involved with Trish's antics also end up getting hit with that orb of confusion shit and start acting a fool. Poor Reefer, man, they did him so dirty throughout this game. Like, he just sort of starts off as this chill character. His entire personality is that he likes to smoke weed and fix machines, but he just ends up becoming Trish's lackey, and it just feels wrong. The worst scene in this game is the prom scene. Oh my goodness gracious. So first of all, long before this scene, Fang breaks off with the band they used to have with Reefer and Trish, making it very clear that she no longer wants dick to do with Trish specifically. I guess this bitch was never taught that no means no, because she ruins everyone's prom by hiring Lisa and Stella to help her make amends with Fang, all while still casually throwing shade at Anon. Like, what is the idea here? Fang's night is ruined, Trish tries to run after her, and then Stella got the nerve to hit us with her doo-doo ass tarot card readings, and Rose is just like, oh, the card was upside down, so I flipped it right side up so it wouldn't look out of place. Is that bad? And the whole time I'm just sitting there like, yeah, you know how I hate these high school ass video games because they feel generic and cliche as fuck? Yeah, this is that game feeling generic and cliche as fuck. Oh, and then Trish just sort of gives up and leaves, like, very nonchalantly and shit, I guess. So yeah, I don't really like Trish. A toxic ass character with no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Also, if you're gonna be that person and say something like, oh, well, if you play the other routes, you'll understand why Trish do what they do. Yeah, let me stop you right there, King. I ain't about to play another whole ass route just to see if a character I found absolutely obnoxious is slightly less obnoxious in another one. Every other character in this game was either chill as fuck or not insufferable. Trish gets no passes whatsoever. If you like Trish, I love you, man, and I respect your point of view. In fact, I kinda wanna kiss you. But please understand, I don't. When I played the game with my friends, we ended up getting the game's third ending. Anon and Fang finish high school, and it's time to decide what the next step in life is. After a 3-year contract in the military, we see Anon return to Fang, looking like they're doing much better in life. Fang, now going by their birth name Lucy, is in fact striving to be a better person. But they're not doing it for their sake. They kinda just do it because of a promise they made to Anon, who they've become almost terminally attached to throughout the course of the story. She eventually admits that she stopped talking to anyone else from the high school, including her brother, and even dreads the idea of revisiting her old high school. She's clearly made some small steps towards bettering herself as a person, but she feels like she hasn't changed at all, and even admits to clinging on to Anon the same way she used to cling on to Trish when they were younger, as a sort of way to cope with the fact that a lot of the shit from her high school makes her feel uncomfortable now. This ending's kind of fucked, but I like it a lot, actually. Listen, I'm about to open a big wound, so bear with me. This ending kind of fucked me up. After having experienced it, I find myself thinking about it a lot, actually. Not so much the dependence on someone else, but more so just running away from your issues. I think it's understandable that most people do shit during their school years that they're not particularly proud of, or may even regret altogether. In that case, I'm no different. It was a time in my life where I wasn't proud of myself, and I was acting like something that wasn't me. Honestly, sometimes it feels like my time in high school was a waste. I've been out of high school for a couple years now, and I feel like I'm slowly but surely feeling comfortable with who I want to be. But at the same time, every once in a while, I get the feeling that I haven't changed one bit, and I'm still that stupid kid from high school. I've just learned to hide it. There's so many people I could have chosen to keep in contact with, but just sort of stopped talking to for the simple reason that I felt like I couldn't ever be the real me around any of them. I've made a whole new gang of friends since then, but part of me will have to accept the fact that I chose to run away instead of facing the issues I had with each individual head on. And even when some people try to reach out to me to see if anything could work out, I had to live with the fact that it ended on their terms because, well, I was too scared to say anything. This ending was an absolute fucking punch to the heart, multiple ones in fact, but in all honesty, this is probably one of the realest endings I've seen in a long while. And even though it's considered a neutral ending of sorts, I found it to be a pretty unique way to end the game. I know it sounds like I may have a crap ton of issues with this game. It's because I do. But as someone that doesn't care for visual novels in the slightest, this one turned way better than expected. For everything I didn't like, I could name a whole gang of parts that felt like they had a lot of heart and passion behind them. And that's ultimately the game's biggest success. Even though I wasn't a fan of the whole thing, I'm ultimately content because I just feel the raw passion that oozes from this fan game. If this fan game based off of an indie game that isn't even out yet can give me all of these feelings, then there's honestly no reason Volcano High shouldn't be able to come close. Am I setting myself up for massive disappointment, being excited for Volcano High because of Sno'Otgame? Yeah, most likely. I know I'm gonna be sad as fuck when the game drops and Principal Spears, Mo, the hot dog lady, and a whole slew of characters aren't anywhere to be seen or aren't at all like their Sno'Otgame counterparts. But in all honesty, thank you so much to the devs of Sno'Otgame for giving me a good time overall, giving me hope for Goodbye Volcano High, and making this jaded person genuinely excited for whatever you all have planned down the line.